welcome to Community Christian Center, better known as
3C.
Yeah, so listen, guys, we're so grateful that you have stopped past here this morning, connected with us. You're in the right place at the right time to receive a word that's going to radically change your life. As a matter of fact, we got an awesome service planned for you today. Unity is ready. Pastor K is ready.
I'm ready.
Pastor J is ready. Are you ready? So listen, let's connected. Let's do life better together. We want to invite you and your families first to visit us here on our Henrico campus. The address is 2213 National Street, Henrico, Virginia 23231. Or you can connect with us via our social media sites. That's Facebook and YouTube. Keyword is 3C Ministry RVA. So let's get ready, man. Let's get ready to go into the sanctuary. Let's get ready to check out Unity. Let's get ready for a word. Buckle your seat belts. Get ready.
Get ready.
Get ready. Y'all ready? We ready.
We ready.
I'm ready.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do this. Again, welcome to 3C. Peace.
Morning, everyone, and welcome on this early Saturday morning. Thank you for joining us for our Renew Ministry. Today, we're going to be talking about back to school strategies. But first, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Nicole Gore, and this is my sugar, Rodney Gore. We are going to be co-facilitating today, sharing some back to school strategies. But first of all, I want to tell you just a little bit about our Renew You Ministry and why we do the work that we do. Once a month, we normally do first Saturdays, but this month we're doing second Saturday at 10 a.m. We try to provide people in the community with some tips as it relates to helping you to promote mental wellness and live healthy in the community. So as a part of our Renew You Ministry, we have the base scripture of Romans 12:2. And I like the Message version of that scripture. So Ty, if you'll pull that up for me. The Message version says, "Don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. Instead, fix your attention on God. You will be changed from the inside out. Readily recognize what he wants from you and quickly respond to it, unlike the culture around you, always dragging you down to its level of immaturity. God brings the best out of you, develops well-formed maturity in you." So basically what this scripture is telling you is don't be so quick to conform to what the world is doing. Don't get caught up on what life looks like on social media. You see snapshots on social media of what life is, but you don't get to see the everyday what's really going on. We try to encourage you to gain knowledge and think for yourselves. Develop the skills that you need to succeed in life. So, Renew You Ministry, our purpose is to provide people with the ability to mature through life's moments, and our goal is to help you develop a God-focused mindset. So, again, with that said, today we are talking about back-to-school strategies for success. So, what we're going to cover today are just some of those basic tips for back to school, and then we're going to talk about middle school transitions, things you need to know and be aware of if you have a middle school student. We're going to talk about some specifics for our high school students as it relates to them succeeding and moving on to the next level. And then we're going to talk about some general tips for student success. After that, we're also going to share a little bit about understanding your child's anxiety, because we do recognize that not only are we going back to school right now, we are still in the midst of a COVID pandemic. So we have that regular anxiety that we get every year as it relates to going back to school, but also dealing with the challenges of COVID. And then we're going to wrap it up with some strategies for our parents and tips for to help you to also to transition and be successful during our new normal, because things are never going back to the way that they were. There are definitely going to be some new changes, so we need to be able to make those adjustments and continue to be able to move forward. So with that said, Ty, if you'll go to my next slide, please.
Firstly, I think it's important. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rodney. I think it's important for us to qualify ourselves to be able to give you this information. My name is Rodney Gore. I've been a mental health clinician for about 30 years, coordinating after-school programs for Henrico County about that long. So I'd like Nicole to share her experience, because you might be saying, how do these people know what they are talking about? So
Absolutely. So, first of all, we are a blended family with 5 children who have all gone through public school systems and graduated at this point. But also, my first 7 years after graduating college, I was a kindergarten teacher at Laburnum Elementary School. And I also worked 13 years with Henrico Mental Health doing community programming as well. So, that is a good point because we don't want to just listen to anything from anybody. It's always great when you can check in with somebody who has some background in the work that it is that we're trying to share with you. So thank you for that. So the first slide is those basics, and you're probably like, I hear this every year. I hear this all the time. Yes, you do. But you don't need to just hear it. You need to make sure that you become engaged in what your child is doing. And that's why it's important that we share these things. So we're going to start off with our first basic, which is meet the teacher, right? So most schools will do a back to school night prior to school starting. So if you are available, make sure you attend and take your child with you. This is a great opportunity for them to meet their teacher so they know their face when they actually do walk in for the first day of school. They get to learn their name. They also have the opportunity to see their classroom. And I know for most elementary schools, they also have an assigned seat so they will know where they will be positioned in the classroom. This just helps to set the tone for them to be even more ready when they show up for the first day. The second tip is know your child's schedule. And this is important for a lot of reasons. This is really a good way for you to be able to engage in conversations with your child about what you're doing, what they're doing in school versus just saying, how was school today, right? So we're going to talk a little bit more about some other conversation starters as we move forward. But the other good thing about knowing your child's schedule is, for example, like middle school and high school students, like know if they're taking biology, algebra, chemistry, whatever those topics are, because it will help you to maybe like recognize I don't necessarily have a lot of skills in that area, but who can I connect with in case my child does need some extra support as it relates to one of those topics. The next thing is our supply list. And I know parents see that long supply list and they say, why does that teacher need all that stuff? The teacher does not need it. Your child needs it. So that's why it's important that we are attentive to that and make sure that we provide as much of that stuff as we can. And also recognize that what they're asking for are supplies that will last the entire school year. So that may help you think more positively about it when you are preparing all those those supplies. The other thing about the supplies this year, I know you will also see on lists that we may not have seen in the past. Make sure you include hand sanitizers, the antibacterial wipes. Make sure you have extra masks for your children. We know that recently a lot of the schools went to the mandatory children need to wear a mask every day. So not only do you need to have multiple masks for your child, maybe have a different one each day, make sure that we wash them regularly, like when we do laundry, but also think about getting a sandwich bag and putting an extra mask in their backpack. Just in case they lose their mask, they'll be able to reach in there and have an extra one for them. The next thing on our list is school fees. We know that in Henrico County, because of laptops, there is a $50 school fee. I don't know if it's changed. It was $50. So, and I know especially if you have multiple children in the school system, that can be a little pricey. But we know every year these fees are coming, so start thinking ahead and planning so that you will be prepared to cover these fees. Other fees that you might encounter are some schools, like if you're taking a science, there may be a lab fee. There may be an additional IT fee. If they're taking an art class, there may be some special art supplies or an art fee for that. So just be mindful that there may be some extra fees that you don't generally think about, which is also why it's important you know their schedule and understand why these fees are needed. And the last thing I put on the list is transportation schedule. It's important that you know what time the bus is supposed to pick your child up, supposed to drop them off. If they're going to a daycare, make sure that the daycare, if they're getting transportation from the daycare center, know what time they're arriving at the school. If they're bringing them home, same thing. This just helps to reduce your anxiety as it relates to knowing what's going on with your child every day and also making sure that they are prepared when they walk into the classroom the first day. Any other tips for back to school basics?
I just think it's important just to be proactive versus reactive. And then usually schools reopen the day after Labor Day for public schools. There's some that open a week prior to that. Your private schools will open probably next week or so. But I think it's really important to get on a routine now, preparing for school. That will reduce some of the anxiety that the students have as well.
Ty, if you'll go to the next slide, we're definitely going to talk more about routine. I don't know if that might be my next slide, actually. Oh, so before we talk about the routine, as we talk about preparing for back to school, the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about is make sure the school knows your child's personal needs. That's a big one, right? And I'm talking about things like if your child has an allergy, make sure that on the physical or medical form that you fill that out. If they need medication for it, make sure that the school nurse has that medication for the child. Make sure, for example, we know that a lot of students with allergies have EpiPens, or if they take other medications, that medication goes to the nurse. Please don't put it in your child's book bag. Have some communication at back to school night about what those needs are, and then the teacher can assist you in making sure that that medication is in place when the child needs it. We do have students who have what we call IEPs, or individualized education plans. And it's important as a parent that you know what those plans say, because basically that plan provides some accommodations for your child to help them be more successful in a classroom setting. For example, one of the things that may happen is if your child gets high anxiety around test taking, the IEP might say that they can be pulled into a separate setting to be able to take their test. So it's important not only that you know what those things say in their IEP, but also that you're checking in with the teacher to make sure that those things are in place. And also, every so often, is every 90 days, I believe, IEPs are supposed to be updated. So make sure that you know when they're supposed to be updated. And if you ever have any questions, please make sure you check in with the teacher, guidance counselor, or what other school supports there are to make sure you understand those needs. And then also just think about what other information do they need to know about my child? Anything else they might need to know about your child? I mean, it's cool that they like to be called Rock, but that's not something you need to be telling the first day of school. I'm being bad when I say that because I had a student, he didn't know his first name as Robert when he started kindergarten because he was always at home and they called him Rock, which is cool. So part of the adjustment to coming to school was he had to be recognized as Robert. So anyway, that's just my side story. Next slide, please. So Rodney mentioned earlier about setting a routine and why it's important that we have a routine. What a routine does is it provides consistency and it provides stability for a child. And that's a way we can help to reduce any anxiety that they may potentially have. When they know every day when I get home, this is what I'm going to do, it just helps them to have a flow in their day. And it also helps you because if you set up a schedule for them, it allows you to be able to take care of some other things in the house. So think about what is the routine after school. Like every day, let's say if you have a child who plays lacrosse. Lacrosse practices on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So they know every Tuesday and Thursday. Yes, unfortunately, sometimes we got to eat a sandwich in the car. We go to lacrosse practice. After practice, we do homework. We have some free time. And then we prep for the next day. And then on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they have a set schedule. They come home. They do their homework. Those might be days that they have chores, opportunity for dinner as a family. Think about family time. And again, have some free time. So fix a schedule if you can. You can post it on a refrigerator or in their room. Post a chart somewhere, like if they do have chores, so they know what those chores are on each day. Because again, this just helps them to have some stability as they go through their day to day. And it also helps you versus this alleviates the Mom, what are we doing? Mom, what are we doing? Dad, what's next? Dad, what's next? They have a schedule. They know what to expect, and then they can help prepare them for that. About the schedule?
I would just make sure that they're involved with the schedule, being person-centered. That way you can hold them accountable for the schedule when they deviate from it. But I think having a schedule is an awesome thing because they know what's going on and it keeps everybody in line.
Very good. And that's a good way just to check in with them as well. Like you said, did you do your chores, your homework? And some parents like to build in a reward system when children do everything that's on that. So this is a good way to check in and even look at establishing what might the rewards be for doing everything on their list without the parent having to continue to remind them. Next slide, please. So we talked earlier about conversation starters, and I just wanted to give you a couple of prompts of things to think about. And I did this all the time. As soon as my son got in the car, how was your day? My nephew that I used to pick up on Wednesdays, as soon as he got in the car, how was your day? And what did they say, Rodney, when you say, how was your day? Good. It was fine. And that's the end of the conversation because you didn't ask them an open-ended question to allow them to elaborate on how their day was. So For example, if you know your child's schedule, you might say, hey,
But let me interrupt you. First of all, get off the phone.
oh, yes.
Get off
Get
the
on.
phone
Yes.
and don't allow them to get on the phone.
Yes. Good
Turn the
point.
radio off and lock in for those first 10 or 15 minutes. That is so, so important. There's nothing you're doing or talking about to that person on the phone as a parent that's more important than finding out how the child's day went.
Very good. Good point. And because what it does, you're distracted, and they see that they're not your priority. So you're probably not going to get any real conversation out of them. So good point. Get in the car, turn the radio off, put the phones down, and take 10, 15 minutes max just for this basic engagement right here. And that can be so very important. I don't think we do recognize how much they do appreciate when they get that one-on-one time with us. So when you can, make that time available just to them. And so some examples of questions that you might ask them are, what made you smile today? And if they give you the short answer, PE, you can say, why? And then that allows them to be able to elaborate on it. Or who did you sit with at lunch? And you can talk about what they had in their lunchbox. Is it foods that they like? It might give you an idea of something new to try to put in their lunchbox. What resource did you have today? Was it PE, music, library? Talk about that. Talk about what they did specifically in art class or music class. What song did you sing? What instrument did you play? And then the next one, possible question is, what was the hardest rule to follow today? And there definitely are going to be some new rules in place going forward. Like we said, mask, having to wear a mask, that's definitely going to be a challenge, especially for our little ones. If you've been at home and not been having to wear one, and now you're going to be in an environment where you have to wear one every day. And I want to say we need to say a thank you to Miss Raymonda Rhodes, who is an assistant principal in Prince George County School System, because we reached out to her and we were like, hey, what are some things that parents and students need to know? And that was the first thing that she said. Not only do they need to wear the mask, but you might want to practice wearing the mask before school starts. And also, they had situations because masks are made out of different types of material. She knew of a young lady who her face broke out. So be mindful of the type of material that you're putting on your child. And if it's something that's breaking them out, make sure you change the type of mask. So you might want to check in with them, like, did they feel irritated about it? Were they struggling to breathe through it? Because some of them do have different layers of thickness as well. And then the last one is, tell me something you know today that you didn't know yesterday. And that's a great one to ask because that requires them to think a little bit about what's been going on. Now, I'm not saying ask them all 5 of these questions. I'm saying you can just ask one, and that could lead into some good conversation. And there's plenty of other things you can ask, but this is just an example of some things to say besides, how was your day? Not that you don't want to know that, but you want to know more than just the good response that you generally get. Comments on that?
No comments. Very good. But again, the engaging piece is important when we're talking about developing young people who can communicate their feelings and thoughts. When we talk about resiliency, when we're talking about being able to adjust in a different environment that we were in a couple of years ago. Next, we're going to transition into middle school. From my years of experience of working with students, this is the most challenging age group and period that most of our young folk go through. And the reason that I say that is because they're transitioning from being the oldest kid or the largest youth at their elementary school to the youngest. And we have to keep in mind our rising 6th graders and our rising 7th graders, this is the first time that they've been in a middle school building. So we have 2 age groups. It's the first time, and they're transitioning at a time that is different. One major part is they go from different classes. They have different teachers versus sitting in one class. They experience a locker, which is challenging, but they didn't have to do. They go from a cubby to a locker. They change out from in gym class in PE where they go into a locker room where they're changing in front of their peers. We used to take showers, but they don't do a lot of that anymore. Again, just physically, they're changing from being a young boy to a preteen, so to speak. So there are some challenges. Bullying is a part of that, and teasing and a rites of passage for a lot of our students going through this period. So everything that was shared about communication, how was your day with our students is very, very, very important. What I suggest is parents to, first of all, just be present. Being present and involved is so important. They have the back to school information and meetings. Please, 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 parents, go to the back to school. Take your students with you. Give them opportunity to walk around the facility, the building. If they can understand how to work and operate their locker, if they see familiar friends that they had in elementary school or live in their community, it will reduce the anxiety immensely. Getting to know the teachers, getting to know the guidance counselors is very, very, very important. As far as 8th grade, I think it's important for everybody to know your guidance counselor specifically, because this is the time where resources and opportunities are available. And I would introduce myself to the guidance counselor day one, because around about December is when applications for your specialty programs are distributed. And every school district, it could be Richmond, Chesterfield, Henrico, Prince George, Caroline County, doesn't matter. For the governor's school, usually the application process starts November, December. For your specialty schools, it could be everybody's maybe not college prepared or even thinking about it. They may have a particular trade that they want to focus on. So around about that time is the time to be asking those particular questions. Now, you wait till January when you get back, you're late. You miss the deadline. So parents who've had 5 children who've benefited from all the specialty schools, the International Baccalaureate Program, Appomattox Governor's School, Community, the Governor's School, Maggie Walker, and then Henrico has a specialty. What are some of those specialties?
So Henrico has a variety. Every high school in Henrico County has a different specialty center, and some have 2. So they have 2 International Baccalaureate sites. They have a school of dance. They have a school of arts. They have a school of technology. Hermitage is humanities and sciences. So just be aware of all of the different opportunities out there. And even though, like Rodney said, applications are in December, but oftentimes in October, they will have open house nights where your child and you would have opportunity to go to the high school, learn more about the specialty center and what's offered. So if you are not tuned into, and we say Henrico because we live in Henrico, I'm sure it's going to be similar for other schools as well. Know the website, like just the general Henrico County Public Schools website, because that's where you can find all those dates as it relates to back to school nights, open houses, and application deadlines.
And we have our own Joe Hewley Jr. Which specialty school did he went to? Highland Springs. What was the engineering? The science program. And they have science and engineering, and as a result, Joe graduated from Virginia State with a similar degree and is going to do big things in that field. So that's an example of someone in our own ministry here who has benefited from the specialty programs. But again, you cannot wait January of that 8th grade year. Know that guidance counselor now.
But I was going to say that's a good point. If your child does have the opportunity to participate in a specialty center, it can either help them be better prepared for the career that they want, but they might also learn at that time that this is not really for me. And it's better to learn that in high school than to learn that in college after you spent years paying for a degree that they don't like. That's also why it's important when they do have the opportunity that they participate in service learning projects. For example, when I was in, well, we called it junior high. We didn't call it middle school. We had junior high and high school. I had the opportunity to volunteer as a candy striper because, hey, I was always one of those people that said I want to be a nurse. But from that volunteer experience, I realized that that's not what I really wanted to do. And I just felt like it was too much, like having to give people needles and dealing with those situations. So I did benefit from that opportunity of having to interact with adults, learn more how to care about people. But also I said, you know what, I need to start thinking about some other career opportunities already.
And again, as it relates to middle school, I think we've been in direct contact with people for a long time through virtual learning. Everybody is somewhat behind. So it's important that you get to know your teacher as a parent. Know that teacher, not being reactive when they call you and share that your child is behind. Know on the front end. Be able to do check-ins. I mean, we have emails and we have the technology now that can be used to maintain ongoing contact with your teachers and your children's teachers. So that's important to make those contacts. In the middle school, what happens, the parent involvement starts to decreasing somewhat. And it's right now, based on everything that we've been through, it's important, it's imperative that we are involved, that we make contact, that we are at the school talking with anyone and everyone to improve our children's academic situation.
And that was another point that reminds me of something else that Assistant Principal Rhodes told us. Make sure you focus on your child's growth, okay? Like they may still be behind because, like Rodney said, the majority of students are behind. But when you see areas of growth, make sure you reward them. So let's say they're third grade and they might be only reading on like a 2.4 grade level. Well, they grow to 2.8. Don't have the attitude of you're still not on grade level. Say, hey, we've seen some growth here. And the other thing you can do as a parent to support that with them is make reading books a part of your everyday thing together. 20 minutes a day. Spend 20 minutes a day reading a book with your child, helping them read a book, asking questions about it to make sure they comprehended what they read. So you don't necessarily have to go through all their subject areas, but spending time reading will help them to be able to have some growth as it relates to all of their academic progress.
Very good, very good. So those are the primary tips for middle school parents and students. Again, we lost a year and a half, and there's been two age groups, 6 and 7, who've not been in the building. And middle school transition, again, is a major, major transitional period for a lot of reasons for our students. So the next slide that we want to discuss is high school. The high school transition is a period of time where parents usually become invisible as it relates to being involved with the school. To be totally honest, please, parents, based on this abnormal year and a half we have, it is imperative that you be involved in the school, knowing the teachers, knowing the guidance counselors, and having a thorough understanding of their schedule and what's going on. Again, it's not a time to be reactive. It's time to be proactive. SOL, standards of learning, standardized tests, college preparatory stuff. These counselors, these guidance counselors have resources and knowledge of all of those things. They can waive fees. They can tell you who's giving scholarships. And I think it's important to say that everybody is not going to college. Matter of fact, 70% of the school population is not going to a 4-year college. That's just how it is. And that's okay. However, there are other opportunities, career opportunities, that students can pursue and go to. I mean, if you know what you want to be, like Nicole said, it could be heating and plumbing, it could be construction, it could be cosmetology, it could be technology, and they have specialty schools for people who understand and want to trade and maybe not go to a 4-year institution. But those guidance counselors have that knowledge and understanding. So there's nothing more upsetting for me as a person that does community-based education for a student to get an 11th or 12th grade and find out that they're immensely behind on graduating from high school based on what did not happen in the 9th and 10th grade years. As a coach, it's really imperative that our student athletes have a understanding that 9th, 10th grade years are very, very important. By the 12th grade year, they're not looking at that transcript. They're looking at your 9th, 10th, and 11th grade transcript, and they're making the decision on your admissions at that time. So what you do early is important, and all the things that we talked about of creating a schedule, being consistent, having some good positive patterns of behavior is going to be really, really, really important. My suggestion as parents is that you check in with your guidance counselor at least twice a month. Just have a basic understanding of when the dates are for the standards of learning testing and any other standardized testing. college visits, career school visits, all of those things. What happens is we don't make that contact and we don't follow through on those resources. Therefore, we have no knowledge and understanding of them, but they are available. Even some of the prep courses preparing you for the SOLs and some of those standards of learning are available, and they will waive the fees if you are academically or financially eligible.
And I don't know, and I would hope at this point people do understand that not only does your child have to pass the class, they have to pass the SOL test as well as a part of their graduation requirement. And I know that, I mean, that's just the way it's been since they started that, because they actually implemented that when my oldest son graduated. Like, they were the first class that had to have passed SOLs. And back then it was only 4 classes because they were gradually building it up. But I say that to say, for example, if you have a child in 9th grade who failed an SOL class, I suggest that they take a summer prep course and retake it versus saying, well, they got 2 more years to pass the appropriate number, because you want them to be as prepared on the front end as possible. And that way it takes some of that pressure off of them as they get to their senior year. And the other thing that Rodney talked about as it relates to waiving fees, the SATs are required by most colleges. That is another one of those programs that you can talk to your guidance counselor about. You can find out about free preparatory programs. They also have the online SAT courses now where you can take as like a practice test. And the benefit of that is you can take a practice test and it'll show you your areas that you're weak in, so you can focus on just those areas. And they offer them, like our high schools, they have Saturdays where you take them. But again, you need to get this information from your guidance counselor. Take it early in the school year. That could be like your test run. That lets you know like how much time and energy I need to put in preparing and studying harder, so that when I take it in the spring, I'll get a much better score. And that way, when I hit 11th grade, I passed all my requirements. I know my GPA is on par. Now I need to just focus on getting into my college that I'm, really excited about trying to attend.
Good. And last thing I would say about the high school piece that's important is that people who live in low-income situations think they can't afford school. They have a thing called the Pell Grant and financial aid. You'll be surprised if you're doing what you're doing academically. Even if you're an average student, there is plenty of money in the state of Virginia for you to go to school. So not having money is not a reason you should feel like you can't go to school. Please, please, please talk to your guidance counselor about those opportunities, because we have so many young folk that live in low-income situations that are diamonds in the rough, that are brilliant, that are prodigies, that are not taking advantage of going to school because they feel like their parents can't afford it. And there's opportunities for you, so that's important.
Okay, if you go to the next slide, please, Ty.
Next, I want to talk. We've been sharing this throughout the presentation, but these are some tips for students, and they've been redundant. You've heard them before, and we're just going to remind you of them. As students, it's important just to develop some really, really, really good habits. And I think as parents, please don't take the approach, oh, he's 16, 17. If he don't figure out and get it, I'm backing up off of him. Wrong answer. Ride them to the very end, and they will appreciate you later. That I don't have homework. If you go to school 7, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and they don't have homework, that's a problem. You need to be talking to their teacher and guidance counselor and figuring out why they don't, especially when the grades are not matching up. At the 9 weeks in, if the grades are not appropriate, it's time to make some adjustments. That I don't have homework is not appropriate. This is the most important thing for me as a parent, is cutting out the electronics. Especially during the academic year, there has to be a pattern and a schedule that will allow some of that stuff, but there is no way that I'm doing homework with the cell phone right here, because every time it dings or go off or I get a text, I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to lose focus of my homework. It's okay to turn the phone off for that hour, hour and a half, 2 hours per day, to focus and lock in on homework. And parents, it's important that you that be a part of that's a non-negotiable as it relates to academics. Take advantage of tutoring. I struggled in math and science personally, and some of my two of my 5 did. But again, I knew that, and we made sure that they got the help and support that they needed. We didn't wait till the last semester when they got that F. It was important that we got that on the front end. Procrastination. Procrastination. I think there's a myth that school is Monday through Friday and the weekends are reserved for fun. But like anything else that, us grown folks that are in the business world, we work Monday through Friday, but we also kind of focus on some of the things we need to get done on Saturday and after church, after we attend a powerful service here at 3C, get empowered and motivated. We go back and we do work. And it's no different in training your child up to do the same thing. Choosing your extracurricular activities wisely. To me, if you are making C's and D's, why are you playing basketball, football as a parent? Or any other activity, because obviously you don't have time for that. So part of being able and having the privilege of having extracurricular activities, even in elementary, middle, or high school levels, that you're taking care of your academics on the front end. Appreciate the importance of sleep. Appreciate the importance of sleep. It is important. Again, I'm not telling you what to do as parents, but if your child goes to bed with their phone and you peek in there at 12, 1 o'clock in the morning and they're YouTubing and TikToking and watching videos and communicating with friends, and then they have to get up at 6, you do the math. They're only getting 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and then they're getting that sleep somewhere. Where do you think that might be?
Classroom.
In the classroom. Wrong place. So those are some of the things, and I don't want to just focus on the negative, but I also want to focus on improving, like Nicole was sharing, is like accentuate the positives. Reward them when they do well. And that doesn't mean monetarily, but just you being involved and emotionally and talking with them about how proud you are of what they're doing. Talk to them. We used to, with our kids, write out goals prior to the school year. We used to take a trip to Myrtle Beach as a family, and I would bring them in each one at a time and have them share their goals for the school year. And then they're setting the goals, they're creating the narrative, and I would support them in what they were trying to do. Again, friends are great if they have the same end goals, objectives that you have. As parents, I think it's important to have those conversations when they do have those friends that are not, that they don't have those same goals and objectives. Yours is high on academics, taking school seriously, being on time, being positive in the community service learning, and those type of things. If they have friends that are totally counterproductive of that, it's important that you have a conversation with them about their friends as well.
Iron sharpens iron, right? So
No
make
doubt.
sure that they have those kind of friends.
Proverbs
around them. So
27:17.
Iron sharpens iron. Yes. All right, next slide, please. So we only have a couple more slides to share, but we do want to talk a little bit more about making sure that we are understanding things that create anxiety in our child and helping them to be able to manage their anxiety. And it is important that we talk a little bit about this, like I shared earlier, because not only do we have just anxiety about just that every year returning back to school, but also it might be that added level because we are still dealing with the COVID pandemic.
Well, again, you hit it on the head. We've had natural anxiety about returning back to school, especially for those, and we didn't even talk about the babies that didn't even get a kindergarten year. Going from kindergarten, you had kindergarten, you go to the first grade, they did kindergarten, pre-K virtual, which is, I feel, that experience of riding on a bus for the first time, they lost all of that. And then you think about the fifth graders who didn't get to transition to middle school, and same with the ninth graders did not get the opportunity to transition. So you have that anxiety. Then you have the anxiety of the news, which is overwhelming. I watch too much of it. My wife tells me, turn that off. I'm a CNN junkie because I want to know what's going on in the world. But I can imagine being in elementary, middle, high school, watching the negative news as relates to what's going on as relates to COVID and the Delta variant, what they may be feeling and not discussing. So with that being said, as parents, I think it's really, really important to have the communication, talking about it, not over-dramatizing it, but the primary goal and objective could be about talking about safety. And how you reduce some of that anxiety, again, is what we talked about earlier. Going to the school for back to school night gets them in the building, gets them talking to people, it creates a sense of normalcy, and start a routine early, not the day before school, but a week or two before school, of what the new routine is going to look like. And be visible, be present, ever present, of when they want to have those conversations. So when they get in the car, when they get off the bus, and you ask how the day was, and you're talking about it, that could be a part of it, but it shouldn't be like, did they wear a mask? Who's not wearing a mask? Don't create that narrative. It should be a natural part of the conversation. Yeah, next slide. We're ready.
Next slide, please, Ty.
So, these are some strategies for parents, and the first one is anticipate. And I think it's best, to be ready for it versus not ready for some of the concerns, because if they go back to school and some kids in their class have some challenges, be prepared and think about how you want to deal with that and talk to your child about that. And every parent is going to be a little different about that. So anticipate some fears and anxieties and be prepared and, again, ready to have that conversation. The next one is help. Help your child identify why they are feeling uncomfortable. Not that I'm scared or I'm uncomfortable, but specifically, why do you feel that way? So you can help, and it'll better help you as a parent to talk to the teacher, the assistant principal, the principal, and the guidance counselor, because if your child is feeling that way, there may be some other children in the school feeling the same way. Number 3 is validation and validate. And that's with any and everything, I think, when our children are dealing with some challenges. If they say they feel that way, I think it's important that you validate their feeling. It shows that you do care and you trust it, not that, man, you're going to be all right. You gotta get over that. You got to push through it. No. They feel the way they feel. Validate it, then talk about why they feel that way. It's very, 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 very important. And the last one I would say for us as adults is modeling the behavior. Model the behavior that you want to see. If you're anxiety ridden and living in fear and anxious and not communicating, you're not modeling. That's the behavior that they're going to model. But if you are communicating appropriately, you're calm, you're processing, you're problem solving, and you're dealing with conflict, that is the behavior you want to see, and that's the behavior you want to model. So what that means is now marching up to the school in your rollers and house slippers and house coat, giving everybody the business based on what's not going on is not the appropriate modeling behavior. But again, you can have the same energy about it, but you do it in a appropriate professional manner, and that child will pick it up, because I'm telling you, what we do is what they model. And we like to think that they don't, but they actually do.
And also, just to go along with that modeling, another way we can do that is to problem solve out loud, because they hear us talking about a strategy. In that situation, it could be simply that sounds like we need to call the school, we need to schedule an appointment so we can talk about X, Y, and Z. So basically, you're just telling the child what you're doing, but again, it's a problem solving strategy. So you call the school, set the appointment, you do the follow through, you're modeling what it is you want your child to do. What you're modeling is your child realizes that they have a concern, talk about what that concern is, and then set up the strategy to address it, which is in this case, calling the school to figure out those next steps. So as much as you can, problem solving out loud. It could be something as simple as with the elementary student, like if you're in the kitchen making something and you don't have an ingredient that you need, it can be like, oh, sounds like we need to, cut the stove off. We got to run to the store, pick up this item. Next time, we'll make a list on the front end to make sure that we have everything that we need. So you're talking those things out really teaches them how to problem solve in situations. Okay? So I want to wrap up just talking about some tips for transitioning to the new normal. This is for parents. This is for students. And when we talk about the new normal, we're talking about the life that we're living going forward. Because, again, we're not going back to March 2020. Did I get my years right? I know we still get confused with that. Things are never going to return back to that state. And that's not necessarily a negative because we have some opportunities as a result of this. So the first thing we need to do is make sure we create healthy boundaries. And this relates to even in your schedule, like make sure you balance work time, family time, personal time, social time. You create those boundaries. Like I'm probably a big offender of not shutting off work at 5:30, sneaking back in the office. Yes, there are those days Rodney stands in the door and says, I'm not leaving till you get up. But I do need to do better about creating those boundaries because what that does is it takes away my time from my family. It takes away my time from myself. So I just need to be mindful about creating boundaries. The other thing about boundaries too is that we need to learn to say no. And it doesn't have to be a rude no. It can be a no with why I can't do it. Because what happens is when you are a good person and you are a giver, people will drain you. And not that they're doing that purposefully, but they know you're somebody that they can always depend on. So we need to learn how to say, you know what? No, I can't do that right now. I can do it at this time. Or I don't know if I can help you with that, but let me give you this other resource that will be able to assist you. Or, you know what? It sounds like something we've done before. How did we handle that before? Put it back on them because they do have skills and can probably take care of some of these things. But when they know you're going to do it for them, then why not? Like I tell Rodney all the time when he talk about the girls, sometimes when he's frustrated, I'm like, of course I would go to dad when he's going to take care of it for me. Why would I not do that? So until he do something different about that, that's the response he's going to always get, right? So just think about creating healthy boundaries for yourself. And I say that because even Pastor Kay came to me one time saying that it's hard for her to say no because to her she said no felt like I don't want to help you or I don't want I don't value you, but that's not it. No simply means right now I'm at capacity. I do want to support you, so maybe I'm going to help redirect you in this way. Okay. The second thing is focus. Focus on what you can control. Rodney watches a lots of CNN, see lots of things going on that he has no control over. But what he can control is he can wear his mask, he can create social distancing, he can use his Lysol and hand sanitizer when he's in workspaces. And he can choose not to go to a social event if he feels like too many people are out there. So instead of complaining about those things that we don't have any control over, focus on those things that you can control. And the last one is give yourself some grace, right? We're talking a lot about being prepared and making plans and being ready. We don't want you to get frustrated if something happens and your plan don't go the way you set it up. That's okay. That happens. You just need to make the adjustments as needed. You can hit the reset button every day and just keep moving forward, okay? Baby steps. You don't have to take giant leaps, but those baby steps to just continue to keep moving forward. And the last slide, we just want to reiterate the importance of self-care. Anybody who's heard me talk at any time probably says she's always talking about this. Yes, I'm always talking about this because self-care is very important. By taking care of myself, I have so much more to offer the world than I do when I'm running on empty. So make sure you engage in self-care. And also don't have this mindset of self-care means I have to spend money, right? A lot of people think self-care, and it is getting massages, getting your nails done, getting your hair done, but it's also taking a walk and putting on music and listening for 30 minutes. It's also maybe my brother in California, he said he loves to go to the beach and just sit on a rock and meditate for 30 minutes. So don't think about something that costs you money. Think about something that helps to refuel you, re-energize you, and help give you peace. Because that way, again, when there are others who need you, you'll be better prepared to help meet that need.
And again, for adults, modeling this behavior, our children, our youth, and our young children will promote and actively be involved with self-care as well. We call those mindfulness moments for our youngsters, which is a big movement as well, but it's a part of self-care. When our children see us taking care of ourselves, they will do the same thing.
So in closing, we just want to wish all of our pre-K through 12th graders a successful school year. College students too. Sorry, don't want to leave out our college students. Our next door neighbor moved yesterday, headed back to college, and we got a niece heading back to college tomorrow. But really, it's about the whole purpose in all of this is helping you be ready to give you some tips for success that you start off on the right foot and be able to continue to move things forward. Parents also remember, when you are prepared, it also helps your child to be better prepared. Pastor, I think, is grabbing his mic so he can come over here and close us out.
And if you got no other tip and instruction today about preparing your student for school, one of the main things, pray them out of the door. Prayer is powerful. So all this is good in the natural, but a lot of prayer is essential and important. And we would love for you to join us virtually at 3C Community Christian Center. And we just hope this has been a blessing and helpful to you. And any information we can help and support and provide you with, this is an ongoing process. It's not just a one-hit wonder. So please reach out to us, reach out to our ministry. Any social issue that we can support you with that is within our realm, if we can't provide it, we will refer you to it. So that's important that you know that as well.
Wow. Come on, show the Gore some love this morning. Man, that was some outstanding information. That was great. That was great. That was great. So listen. If you came across this and beneficial to you, feel free to share it on your page. I think every parent, every student is dealing with some level of anxiety right about now about going. We got Zion's first shot, I think about a week ago, and he gets the second one. I believe he'll already be back in school. But I'm so concerned about him just going back. He's going to a new school in a new community, doesn't know anybody. So, and I think the little guy freaking out, man. But yeah, and undercover, so am I. I'm trying to be like, yeah, Papa, I got you. We all right, bro. But I got some concerns, right? So, hey, the understanding, I think that was just such a great part of giving us permission to have the anxiety and then giving us tips of how to deal with it. Because so many times we stop that. No, this is natural. This is stressful. And we don't think about that towards kids of this is stressing them out. We know what the anxiety does for us, but so I thought that was a great point. Again, kudos as always, top-notch information presented in excellence. So we want to thank you guys for joining us this morning. Continue to show and support Renew You. They do such great work, and they work so hard to make sure that the information that they bring is relevant, and again, is solution-driven, person-centered. So thank you guys so much for what you do. Hey, listen, tomorrow morning, we're live from the living room. So check us out, 10:30. We live from the living room. It's going down that way for the rest of the month of August. I will be back in September, let's say that, back in the building. But we're just making sure everything is on point and that your families are safe when we make it back to 3C physical. But 3C virtual is about to be off the chain. You want to connect with us. There are a couple of opportunities to do so. So let me give you this. We'll have a service that shows at 7 a.m. We'll be live from the living room at 10:30 a.m. And then we'll have the replay at 7 p.m. So you get plenty of opportunities to catch us, connect with us. Always looking to opportunity to connect, because we believe here at 3C that life is better when we do it together. So if you didn't get a chance to connect today, take advantage of it right now. You can simply text the word welcome. Text the word welcome to 804-925-1466. Complete that connect card. We'll reach out to you. We'll get connected. We'll do life better together. I think that's it, right? That's it. So listen, again, we want to thank you guys for hanging out with us. Big ups to our production team that came in this morning to make sure this thing went off in excellence. We love you guys with the love of the Lord. Tomorrow morning at 7, 10:30, and 7 p.m. Connect with us. Get with us. It's 3C live from the living room. We love you guys with the love of the Lord. Peace.